Ladies and gentlemen, happy Monday. My name is Kevin Thomas. This is the AZ Wildcats podcast. I have a big show for you guys today. I'll be ranking every starting quarterback, well, at least the top 10 starting quarterbacks, I believe, in the Big 12. Plus, as you'll notice, no Damon Dog. Happy belated Mother's Day to everybody out there. So I got bored because Damon's out of town and I ranked the top 10 quarterbacks. We're also going to talk about Arizona softball doing their thing, hosting a regional, Arizona baseball looking to get some momentum going at the end of the year. Was Benedict Mathurin's ejection the worst of all time? I have a hot take on cereal. This is the AZ Wildcats podcast in 30 seconds. Don't you go anywhere. Please leave a like. Yes, indeed. It is a good Monday to be alive in Arizona, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Thomas, and this is the AZ Wildcats podcast. How is everybody doing in the chat? Thankful to have you all here today on this happy Monday. I'm doing good. Had a good weekend. Spent most of it relaxing, doing what I needed to do this past weekend. Spent some time locally out and about, watched some nice playoff basketball, watched some UFC this past weekend. That was pretty fun. JDM, Jackie, 3 names, got it done and new. And we also saw some pretty interesting playoff basketball. And I think off the top of the show, we should probably discuss that right about now. So let's go ahead and get into that. That Benedict Mathurin ejection was wild. I don't know if everyone out there, if you missed it during the Pacers-Cavs game, which was a complete blowout even before the half. At the half, it was 80-39, I believe. Just a disgusting score, a gross score. Nobody in their right mind should have been watching that game. But if you were watching that game, you would have seen Benedict Mathurin catch maybe the weakest ejection in basketball history. That's something that some outlets were calling it. I don't know if I would go that far. I think we'd have to go back through the annals of basketball history and figure out, exactly what the weakest ejection of all time might be. But this one was pretty soft. DeAndre Hunter and Benedict Mathurin have kind of been going back and forth all series. A little bit of tete-a-tete there in some ways. So you expect a little bit of contentiousness when those two are one-on-one in this series right now. Clearly two guys that don't have a lot of love for one another. And I wanted to, bring this to your attention because one, there's no way that Benedict Mathurin should have caught an ejection. Now I believe he did have a closed fist kind of like shove at DeAndre Hunter, which you can't do. I understand that. That is a flagrant foul. But usually, and I believe I heard this on the TNT broadcast live, but like this was my opinion as well. Usually the second guy is the one that's getting punished the most. Like in class in 5th grade, if you were talking, but your friend was talking a little louder, maybe you were talking first, they're probably going to get your friend in trouble because they're talking a little louder. And that's just how life goes sometimes, isn't it? But not this time. Benedict Mathurin shoves DeAndre Hunter. DeAndre Hunter doesn't really react adversely until he realizes that he's been shoved. And by when I say that, he doesn't like fly backwards or anything crazy. It was just a shove is what it was. It was a one-fisted shove. DeAndre Hunter then, as Benedict Mathurin is backing up, DeAndre Hunter walks on over, two-hand pushes Benedict Mathurin. Mathurin, who was doing a sacrificial pose, I'll say, right before that was a funny screenshot going around right before the shove. Mathurin is doing this as if to say, like, come on, shove me. I can't wait to watch you get ejected and for me to finish out this game. And then meanwhile, two-hand shove, Mathurin flies back to the ground and Mathurin's ejected. DeAndre Hunter gets the flagrant. And I felt like it should have been reversed, mostly because you just can't lose your head like that and not get punished with an ejection. You can also say you can't push someone with a closed fist in the NBA, and that's true. Mathurin should have been given a flagrant. But I truly feel that there is no world where one, Mathurin should have been ejected, and two, Hunter should have been allowed to stay in the game, because if Mathurin got ejected for what Mathurin did, what did Hunter do? He retaliated in a louder, more physical, more reckless way. So I do think that the refs got it wrong there. Like I said, some people calling it the weakest ejection of all time. I don't think I will go that far, but I will say that Benedict Mathurin ejection, no bueno, NBA referees. We got to do better on that. But the Pacers, without Benedict Mathurin, still powered through that game, absolutely destroyed the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was a blowout, like I said, way before the half even started. And I'll just say that DeAndre Hunter is probably lucky that TJ Mack, if you will, didn't get involved in that tomfoolery, because it could have went left really fast. You know what I mean? TJ McConnell might not look like it, but I'm sure he could put a hurting on some people if he wants to. Michael in the chat says, "What up, Kevo? Yeah, that ejection was bad. Super surprised Hunter did not at least get a flagrant one. I thought he did get a flagrant one. I thought he did, but I might be wrong on that. But yeah, no, it was crazy to me that the action that was way more reckless, way more loud, did not get punished as hard as the action that had to get, replayed, slowed down, reviewed to see the severity of it. It felt kind of obvious to me watching it, and I know a lot of people at home were upset by that one as well, specifically Arizona fans, because that's our guy. Benedict Mathurin's our guy. The dunk over Eddie Lampkin, he's our guy. Michael continues to say TJ has been one of the best glue guys in the game right now, and he really has been ever since he entered the league. I feel like he's been that way. Very happy to see him go out and get that big bag that he recently got. And the way he plays, he makes himself a lot of money. The way he plays, he is one of those players. As some of you may know, I'm a Celtic fan, which might make everybody in this chat currently leave. But he's a player kind of like a Derek White, where it's like every coach in the NBA wants a guy like that on their team. And I think that TJ McConnell certainly falls into that category. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I couldn't be happier to see it happening for the former Arizona Wildcat, one of the most beloved players to ever come through this Arizona program. And one last statement on it, not the softest ejection of all time, but certainly an unacceptable ejection, an unfair ejection, an ejection that probably potentially never even should have happened. And we go from one Arizona Wildcat making it happen in the NBA playoffs to another Arizona Wildcat making it happen in the NBA playoffs. How much fun has it been to watch Aaron Gordon hoop in the NBA playoffs, folks? It has been so much fun. The game-winning dunk, only one of two game-winning dunks in NBA playoff history. The other one, another Arizona Wildcat, DeAndre Ayton. We've discussed that. We've discussed his game-winning three here in this series. And then on Friday night, Aaron Gordon has a game-tying three from the left corner to send the game to overtime in a game that the Nuggets then went on to win somewhat convincingly in overtime. And man, like I'll call it three game winners. Not game winners, but game winning plays, right? Because if you don't make it to overtime, you can't win the game if you're the Nuggets, right? You're losing that game. If you don't make it to overtime, you go home unhappy. Aaron Gordon makes that shot, sends you to overtime, and then you win the game. I think you could argue that shot was just as important as any other shot in overtime, because you don't get to overtime without Aaron Gordon being probably the most is he the most clutch Arizona Wildcat ever in the NBA right now, just based on the resume he is building up, chat? You let me know in the comments below who you think maybe has the best clutch gene of any Arizona Wildcat basketball alumna. But yeah, speaking on Aaron Gordon, we've talked to Spears about this before, but you can't be any happier for a guy like Aaron Gordon to have this kind of success, have these kind of positive moments after, I'll just say, some of the valleys emotionally that he has been through over the last year and some change here with the loss of his brother, and really taking on that bigger uncle role for his two nephews that his brother left behind. You see them in the post-game interviews, the press conferences, really, really special story. And it couldn't, from the outside looking in, it couldn't be happier, or could not be happening to a nicer guy than Aaron Gordon. But yeah, and I did have a genuine question I wanted to ask you, the chat. Please help me out on this one. And I think I'll throw it to Twitter, the Twitter streets later, but we know those can be a little bit, those can be kind of crazy. And we'll get to that here in a second. But Is this like the most? I really don't know how to word it, but is this the most March Madness type run of any NBA player in the NBA playoffs of recent memory? Within recent memory, like the Linsanity run kind of happened. That was like a regular season, like it germinated in the regular season and then took off, right? Like, is this like the first time that a player who is, maybe the casual fan doesn't even know or thinks is okay or doesn't really understand their role, then that player going out and being vital to the team's success? And yeah, every diehard basketball fan, every guy, girl, or human that watches the NBA basketball scene right now knows that Aaron Gordon is one of the most important and impactful role players. And I say role players not in a demeaning way, but I just say it in the way that his role for the Denver Nuggets has evolved into a vital cog in the Jokic machine. I think a lot of people who really watch the game know that, but I think a lot of casual fans remember Aaron Gordon as the dunk guy. And so I think, is this the most March Madness-y type run of any playoff NBA player in recent memory? Just a player who simply explodes with moments in the playoff. Aaron Gordon's had 3 moments that will be remembered, at least by Nuggets fans, Arizona Wildcat fans, some basketball fans, for a very long time. That dunk is one of 2 ever. And spoiler alert, folks, like that means it doesn't happen very often. And it means we're going to be talking about it and remembering it for quite some time. So I feel like this might be one of those runs where Aaron Gordon goes from, the diehards know him, the people who know him love him, but the casual doesn't really understand his value, to a guy that now may be entering the category of people that every casual fan knows for their game, not for some dunk contest that happened years ago at this point. So yeah, very, very happy for Aaron Gordon. Let me know in the chat your opinions on the Aaron Gordon situation. Michael says, especially with Jokic's struggles, I do not think anyone outside of the Cats fans would have predicted his success. Especially true. And I think when he got to, the Nuggets, and even after he won the championship, I think a lot of people knew, okay, Aaron Gordon is incredibly pivotal and vital to what the Denver Nuggets are trying to accomplish on the basketball court. It also felt like a lot of people remembered him for going tarps off in the street and drinking with the fans in celebration, So it feels like, maybe I'm wrong on this, but it feels like this is the first time that Aaron Gordon is actually getting some shine and some love for his game, for his basketball. Like from the casual fan. I think he's always gotten that love from like the analysts, the diehards, the nerds, you know what I mean? Like us. He's gotten the love from us. But I think the casual fan that isn't watching every Nuggets game really doesn't know much about the Nuggets outside of Jokic and Jamal Murray, I think is finally starting to get put on to Aaron Gordon's basketball, not just his athleticism, his actual basketball. This is a guy who built a basketball court in his home just so he could religiously put up shots every day and get better. There are people out on social media even saying that, like, if Aaron Gordon can do this, if Aaron Gordon can build a court in his home and become a much improved shooter, a guy who coming out of college, you wouldn't have wanted him to shoot the ball really, I feel like, at all. He was more of a rim runner, right? Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like this is a guy who's kind of showing some fans that hard work, when it's actually being done, pays off in the regular season. I think we see a lot of NBA players these days that off-season workout tape culture, right? Where if you didn't film it and didn't post it, did you even work out? And I think Aaron Gordon is one of those guys where he's really doing the work, whether it's on camera or not, right? I think he's one of those guys where he's really doing the work and you really see it on the court. So yeah, again, could not be any happier for Aaron Gordon. And on the other side of this break, folks, we are going to talk about a lot more. We got my hot take on cereal that apparently everyone, wants my head on a steak for. I don't know what that's all about. We're going to talk about that. I have my top 10 Big 12 quarterbacks ranking on the other side of this break as well, and Arizona softball and Arizona baseball. Just one break on today's show, folks, and then we are commercial free the rest of the way out. Stay tuned here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. We will be right back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Circle K. It's America's thirst stop. Ladies and gentlemen, it truly is. It's my favorite gas stop. my favorite little snack stop. Anytime I need a discount on gas, Circle K is the way to go. That Inner Circle fuel discount is unbelievable. You get 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. That really does add up, folks. And on top of that 25 cents off per gallon in your first 5 fill-ups, after your first 5 fill-ups, you get 3 cents off per gallon on every day after that. No special occasion, just 3 cents off every day after that. When you use it enough times, you get 5 cents off. And the deals, they just don't stop there. You get deals on food, deals on snacks, deals on, if you're a nicotine user, if you're a little bit of a gambler, you know what I mean? The lottery, like they have everything at Circle K. It is not just America's favorite gas station. It is America's thirst stop, folks. Join that Inner Circle today by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply. Participating locations. Visit circlek.com for more details. And now I also want to talk to you all about our friends over at Sanderson Ford, because as you know, my name is Kevo, and this is huge news from our friends David Kimmerly and Sanderson Ford from America, for America pricing. What more could you want from that? Especially with everything going on in the economy these days, you pay the same price as Sanderson Ford's owner on the full line of new Fords. No hassle, no pressure, no nonsense, no added markups, no addendums, none of that. Choose Sanderson Ford because not only do they have a reputation of serving the Valley for 70 years, they also have the best inventory. And now is the time to buy a new Ford from Sanderson Ford with From America, for America employee pricing in celebration of their 70th anniversary. Stop in and get a pair of tickets to an Arizona Diamondbacks game just for stopping by. No test drive required, just you getting tickets in your pocket and maybe a new set of keys required. I just want to say this little disclaimer. This excludes 2025 Expedition, Super Duty, Raptor Family, Mustang, and Bronco specialty vehicles. 1 pair of tickets per household with valid driver's license to July 6th game versus Kansas City Royals. Wow, supply of 200 tickets last. So make sure, head over to our friends over at Sanderson Ford. No hassle, no nonsense. All great car selection guaranteed. They also have a diner over there. They might even feed you if you ask. No, I'm kidding. Just you can go get food at the diner. You don't got to ask. Yeah, folks. So like I said, commercial free the rest of the way out. We're smooth operating from here on out. Thank you to each and every one of you guys here in this chat. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you're here on this chat. If you had breakfast this morning, leave a like on this video. And if you like cereal, leave a comment. Because this morning, chat, I woke up and I was kind of hungry, but not that hungry. And I was thinking, what do I want for breakfast? And you're like, Kevin, what are we talking about your breakfast for? Hold on, I'm getting to it. I thought to myself, I don't want cereal. Who wants cereal? And then I started thinking about, who is cereal really for? And so I got on Twitter and I said this. Can we agree that cereal is for children? And necessarily, I did not mean that if you eat cereal, that you are a child. I think I more so meant that cereal in general, yeah, you can pick out your odd ones here and there, are totally designed for kids, right? Well, let me tell you guys, chat, people did not like this take. And I just want to defend myself here really, really fast and say, yes, you can eat cereal and still be a perfectly fully functioning adult. But also, you must recognize that when you go buy the whatever O's or the whatever Crunchies or whatever, it's marketed and designed for children to be enticed and excited by the boxes so that they can get their parents to purchase the sugary cereal for them, getting them hooked on that sugary substance, and then coming back for more and more. All the while, the parents are probably having their eggs and bacon, right? You know what I mean? It is something that kids can eat because it is sugary, it is yummy, and it has no nutritional value and does not taste like Brussels sprouts or broccoli or asparagus or onion, like whatever the vegetable is you might pick. Yeah, that's my take on cereal. I think it's very overrated. Like it's probably top 25 breakfast foods. It's barely food. Cereal is barely food, folks. I'm sorry to break it to you. I'm sorry to tell you about Santa Claus in this way, but cereal is not food. It is sugar on whatever cardboard substance they're putting in there. I will say, the marshmallows from Lucky Charms, no disrespect, those are fire. Those are fire. And we're not going to accept any Lucky Charms slander in this chat. But yeah, Lucky Charms, especially. Sorry, no free ads, but yeah, made for kids as well. Moving on from the cereal talk, because I don't got enough time in my day to discuss mid breakfast foods with all of you. Oh, real quick, I do want to shout out Chris Brown. Sea Breezy. I do want to shout out Chris Brown of AZ Bandcat Sports, because he responded to my tweet kind of saying that, like, look, cereal is really good for snacking. And I was saying, yeah, like, again, when I say when I say the cereal is for children, I'm not saying that, you know, you can't have cereal as a grown adult and still be fully functioning. I'm mostly just saying that it's meant for children. It's not meant for a grown adult who has nutritional needs. I think you could argue that it's not meant for kids either, because you got to grow and you got to have your nutrients to become a big, strong Big 12 quarterback, which is what we're talking about today. We're talking Big 12 quarterbacks, and we are ranking them 10 through 1. Now, I want to talk about this a little bit before we get into it. There's a really tough decision I had, several tough decisions I had making this ranking. And I chat, you get lost. You get lost going through all these quarterbacks in the month of May, right after spring football. One of these teams doesn't even have a quarterback selected officially yet, and we'll get into that in a second. So I just wanted to, make it known that while, hey, I make these rankings, and it is May. It is way too early to have a top 10 in the Big 12, but I think it's fair. You know what I mean? Damon's out of town. What are we going to do? We're going to party. We're going to have a little bit of a ranking. We're going to have a little bit of controversy, and maybe you all will hate my selections that I've picked for today's top 10. But let's go ahead and get started with none other than our number 10, Kaidon Salter. Now, Kaidon Salter, Liberty quarterback last season, has transferred to Colorado. And we all know what Shedeur Sanders did or did not accomplish at the University of Colorado with his father, Deion Primetime Sanders. They go out after Shedeur's departure and Travis Hunter's departure, and they go out and get Kaidon Salter from the transfer portal, one of the most sought-after quarterbacks, I believe, in the portal when you really look into the hype around Salter last season. I think a lot of people loved his game. I think he has a very mature outlook on it. It feels like, from what I'm seeing, I haven't seen every interview or know everything that he's ever said, but it seems like he has a pretty good outlook on the game. It seems like he really wants to reach his ultimate goal of being in the pros, being in the NFL. And he spoke about that as to why he chose Colorado. It's Pat Shurmur, it's Deion, there's a lot of guys there that have been where he wants to go. I believe that is a quote from him. It's not just a quote from him. A lot of people say stuff like that, but no, like a big reason why he chose this school was, he thinks Colorado can get him to the NFL. Whether you agree with that, mileage may vary on that one. I think that this is a player, and you look at the quarterback battle, this is a player that I think is going to win that starting job. I think this is a player that it's his job to lose, but it's not a job that he can't lose. You know what I mean? I think Julian Lewis is a really good quarterback. And I think that he shows flashes of really, really high level of talent at times. If you watch the spring game highlights, or if you watch anything from Colorado's spring game, there are some moments that kind of, he just looks really green. And I know he's out there against, sometimes the number 1 defense, sometimes the number 2 defense. Sometimes he's got the 1 O-line in front of him. Sometimes he's got the 2 string O-line in there with him. So it's a little bit of inconsistency there from a blocking, catching, and defending standpoint. But I think that because of how green he's looked at times, in my opinion, I don't think that day one he'll be the starter at Colorado. I think that will be Kaidon Salter based on his experience. And just like I said, when you're watching the highlights overall, Kaidon Salter looks like, of course he does. The more day one ready quarterback. He's played 3 or 4 years in college already. So he's an impressive talent. I have him at my number 10 spot. I think that Colorado this upcoming season, tons of question marks. You don't know what they're going to look like without Shedeur, without Travis Hunter. And you don't know what Deion is going to coach like next season, I feel like, because we haven't seen him coach without his kids yet. And I think I'm not saying that he can't coach without Shedeur and Shiloh and Travis, but I know Travis is not his kid. But I guess I am saying that, like, maybe we're just loud wrong, and maybe this will get wind up to DMVR, and I'll get a message about you don't even know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Not that they would do that, but you get my point. Like, I feel like we we don't know Prime's level of motivation to coach kids that aren't his. You know what I mean? Like after his kids are not on the team. I think Coach Prime, I think Deion Sanders has a huge desire to coach. I think he has a huge desire to help change guys' lives. But for how long? Right? Like that's all I'm asking. And I think that's fair to wonder how long. For example, the LeBron conversation that's been going on for Lord knows how long now about, well, once he plays with his son Bronny, he's gonna retire. And now it's like, well, LeBron has had another dream and now he wants to play with Bryce and Bron. Like, you know what I mean? So we don't know when it's going to end in Colorado with Coach Prime. I think Colorado fans somewhat feel the same way. I think some of them think that he's going to be there forever. No one's anywhere forever. But I do think they're kind of trying to just enjoy it while they can and see what, how much juice they can squeeze out of that orange. And I think Kaidon Salter is a good way to continue to have some level of success in the Big 12. Again, I'm not really going to predict any level of success yet for Colorado. We still, like I said, don't officially know who the starting quarterback is, but I'm going to assume that it is Kaidon Salter, and that is why he is coming in at number 10, mostly because he is unproven in this conference, and yet I think he is talented enough to really make a good showing for himself. Coming in at the number 9 spot, Connor Wegman. He is the new quarterback at Houston, and when you look at his career, you're in a tougher spot, I think, with this one, because in my opinion, Connor Wegman has a lot of talent. He, was the 8th best transfer QB in his class. He started 4 games as a true freshman, set the Aggies' true freshman single game record with 328 yards and, 4 touchdown passes against Ole Miss. He's a highly touted prospect from the time he was in high school, right? One of the highest ranked guys in his class at the high school level. But the question to me is, can he stay healthy for a whole season? This is a player who has really had some injury woes. A shoulder injury made him miss some time in early 2024 last season. And in 2023, he had that foot injury that happened in the fall. And this was after he had a really nice start to the year. So there's clearly talent there. Can he stay in the game, right? Not only for injury, but for actual talent reasons. Can Connor Wegman stay in the game? He was benched, I'm sure you all remember, from Marcel Reed against LSU this most recent season. He went 6 for 18 with 64 yards against LSU and averaged just 3.6 yards per play. They bench him. Marcel Reed comes in, and I believe they ended up to go on to win that game. Either way, I know Marcel Reed came in and showed really good flashes of being that guy for Texas A&M. And all of a sudden, Wegman was in the transfer portal, ends up at Houston. Curious to see how he does, if he can stay healthy. I think I have him at number 9 because of the fact that he has that SEC experience. He has the Texas A&M ties. There is clearly pedigree from the time he was a young man in high school to now. So I'm kind of banking on that a little bit. But the reason he falls so low is because I simply don't know if the man can stay healthy, right? And if he can't stay healthy, I don't think there's really a reason to have him very high on this list if he's not going to be on the field. You know what I mean, chat? Coming up at number 8, Devin Dampier. Devin Dampier transferred from New Mexico. I think every Arizona fan remembers Devin Dampier for his time at New Mexico, featuring last year's game against Arizona, where he played very well. Really made a good showing for himself in that game. Not only that, but he didn't make Luke Weissong look awesome, but the tandem of Devin Dampier and Luke Weissong certainly was effective, is what I'm trying to say. And he did it with his arm. He did it with his legs. His stats, I think, were slightly underwhelming. Through a couple too many interceptions last season, did Dampier. So you hope he cleans that up if you're, a Utah fan, because that's where he is going under the guide of Kyle Whittingham and company over there. I think he's going to be very well coached. He's going to have a great offensive system for him waiting on him. And I think he could prove himself. I really do. I think, again, like he falls where he does on my list here, kind of for the same reason that I had Kaidon Salter below Connor Wegman, is because he has yet to play in this conference. How do we take that into account? Right. So I do ding him some points for that. But Devon Dampier is a very talented quarterback. Excited to see what he can do in this conference. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about him because I remember, like I said last year, that game against Arizona that he had looked very good. A lot of people, considering the way the offense looked last year, said, hey, if Noah Fifita walks out that door, if he transfers, which I know we all don't want to remember, but that was a very real possibility. It doesn't ever sound like it was truly on the table from a Fifita perspective, but from the fans' perspective, that is what it felt like. It felt like any moment Fifita could be hitting the portal and we'll all get that notification and just be depressed for a week, weeks, months, years, right? But Fifita stays. But a lot of people were saying if Fifita does go, Devon Dampier should be the guy that Arizona looks to bring in. Southwest ties. He played in Tucson last year against Arizona. So I like him as a quarterback. I think he's really talented. I think the dual threat ability of a Devon Dampier is unique. And I think coming up a level from New Mexico to Utah, I think will actually benefit him. I think he'll fit right in with that culture up there that Kyle Whittingham has built. And honestly, I can say I'm excited to see what Devon Dampier is going to do in Utah. I don't know how you guys in the chat feel. Let me know. By the way, if you are in this chat, please drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We've recently hit 40,000 subscribers. The road to 50K starts now. So yeah, make sure to like this video if you're feeling froggy, and make sure to subscribe to this channel because Damon and it's usually two of us. We are trying to provide the most comprehensive Arizona Wildcats coverage humanly possible. And we're going to continue to do that at the end of this show when I talk about Arizona softball a little bit there. But moving on to our number 7 hole spot, I have Jake Retzlaff of BYU. And when you talk about Jake Retzlaff, this is a guy who clearly has talent. He has a ton of support behind him in that BYU fan base. A lot of BYU Cougar fans love what Jake Retzlaff can bring to the table. And I think that I actually also feel that way. When I was previewing BYU versus Arizona last season, he was really one of the guys that stood out the most to me. I really felt like Jake Retzlaff is a very talented quarterback. I'm not quite sure his potential, like from a pro perspective, but from a college perspective, very effective quarterback. I've seen people having Jake Retzlaff as high as like 4 on some of their lists. He does not make it that high for me. The BYU quarterback falls at number 7 on my list, ahead of Devon Dampier, Connor Wegman, and Caden Salter of Colorado there at the end at number 10. Real quick, want to take a quick intermission to remind you all to drink some water, folks. Don't forget to drink your water at home. Very important. I always say hydrate or dihydrate, and I'd rather hydrate than dihydrate, chat. So make sure you're drinking some water there. But yeah, Jake Retzlaff falls at number 7 for me. I think a lot of BYU fans expect him to have a uptick next season. You look at all the money that's currently flowing into BYU's NIL and revenue sharing services. You would expect that roster to stay competitive over the years, and look at how they ended last year, man. Like that was a frustrating, if you're a BYU fan, that was a frustrating end to last season, the way everything fell out with ASU, and just the conference as a whole. BYU was one of the strongest teams in the conference all season, one of the best coach teams in the conference all season. And the wheels kind of fell off there at the end. So I really do feel like Jake Retzlaff is going to come in and have a solid year. Him being at the 7 spot does not mean that I don't think he's going to have a good year. I do think he's going to have a good year. I think the guys ahead of him are going to have better years. And that's just kind of where I'm at with Jake Retzlaff. And, you know, I was laughing about this with Eric Ruby a little bit this morning, but like part of what makes Jake Retzlaff so special is the connection he has with the BYU fan base. And I think that's important because he has a different mindset than some of the BYU fans, I'll say. And I think the way that they've accepted Jake Retzlaff into their team, into their fold, the way that the BYU fans, like, you know, vehemently cheer him on, like would die for him pretty much. I feel like they love Jake Retzlaff in BYU's campus. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't go to BYU. I never went to BYU, so I don't know. But I really do feel like that's a guy that BYU fans get behind. So maybe they won't like me having him at 7, and that's okay. Because I do respect Jake Retzlaff, and I think his game is suited for the Big 12, and I think he'll have a good year next year. I think BYU will have a good year next year. Moving on, though, to our sixth spot. Josh Hoover of TCU. Now, Josh Hoover had 3,900 passing yards last year, just 51 yards short of the 4,000 mark, 27 TDs, 11 interceptions last season. But TCU did not play a single ranked opponent. And that's going to change this year because they're going to play 3 teams that have made it to the CFP last season, including Arizona State, who, for better or worse, a lot of people are really high on. Hate to say that, but yeah, no, Josh Hoover is indeed in my sixth spot there on my list. I think that he is a very strong quarterback, highly talented, very high potential as well. And one thing that I noticed when I was going through that I had forgotten, and that maybe people at home had also forgotten, folks, Terry Shelton is on that team. And if you don't remember Terry Shelton, I would understand that. He is a high school receiver recruit from Texas who Arizona was very deep in on from a recruiting standpoint for a long time until last season happened and everything looked awful and the offense looked horrid and old and just not good, flat out bad. And Arizona lost Terry Shelton's commitment to the University of Arizona. He moves on to TCU. The 6'4", 200 plus pound young freshman receiver will join the new also transfer targets like Jordan Dwyer and former Houston receiver Joseph Manjack. Bro, Joseph Manjack? What a name. Are you serious? Joseph Manjack. But yeah, like I said, the sixth as well. That's a crazy name. Joseph Manjack, the sixth is an insane, or the fourth, sorry, is an insane name. And I'm high on Josh Hoover going into next year. I think that this is a quarterback who was linked to Tennessee in the offseason. And we all know how badly Tennessee wants to win. We all know how badly they wanted an elite top echelon quarterback in the country. We know how bad they're willing to pay for such a thing. I was reading an article in Sports Illustrated last night that said the Vols, and I quote, the Vols reached out to Hoover, offering him more than $1 million in addition to what he's already making. According to reports, Hoover is already making a 7-figure deal with the Horned Frogs. So if you are looking at a guy who could have been like one of the hottest transfer quarterbacks in his class, if he had ever even entered the portal, which he didn't do, and Tennessee is still contacting him, offering him $1 million more than whatever he's making now, which is probably multiple millions anyway. I'll get back to Josh Hoover in a second, but again, correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. If you're in here and you want to fact check me, please do it, because I'd love to be wrong about this. But like, to my understanding, Josh Hoover never even officially entered the portal. So for Tennessee to lose out on Nico Iamaleava, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and then just be like, well, let's just start calling guys. Let's just start cold calling guys. Even if they're not in the portal, let's try to pull them from their current team. Where does it end? Where does it end? Like, the current state of college sports, college football is unbelievable. Like, I actually can't believe it. The fact that like coaches are not playing their best, guys, or showcasing all their best talent in the spring games anymore, because you don't even know if that guy's going to stay on your team through the damn spring. And I love Kean Burnett, and I love that it benefited Arizona in this way, but I do, again, think it's a slight flaw in the system. You got a guy like Kean Burnett who leaves Arizona in the fall, spends a spring and a winter with Kansas, and then goes back to Arizona. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like there are just issues with the way that college sports works right now, or doesn't work right now. If you are TCU, you have a quarterback, Josh Hoover. You're high on Josh Hoover. You bring in a Terry Shelton, finesse him from the Wildcats in Tucson, right? And then all of a sudden, Nico Iamaleava doesn't want to play, and he leaves Tennessee for, the beaches and waves of California, just like Damon Dog. And all of a sudden, if you're TCU, now your quarterback's getting calls from Tennessee. And it doesn't compute to me. I don't know how you guys feel in the chat, but I feel like it must be an incredibly hard way to compare or prepare for a season if you are a head football coach, an assistant football coach, a position coach. It doesn't matter. It's an incredibly hard way to prepare, hello, Erica Day, for any season coming up. If you don't even know if your quarterback is going to be on the roster, even if he's happy, because someone can just come offer him $1 gajillion. And who is the quarterback really to say no to $1 gajillion in their early 20s, folks? You know what I would have done for $1 gajillion? I'm still in my early 20s. But in my even earlier 20s, I would have moved to Siberia. You know what I mean? So like and Michael here says in the chat, we lead the league in Luke's and we're starting to lead the league in Michael. Shout out to you, Michael Coronado, for this chat, who says it doesn't end. Alabama did that to Noah and T-Mac when Jedd left. And that's true. And you're right. It's unfortunate that you're right. But I'm hoping that at some point it does end, because it feels like it's kind of starting to, well, it's already been, but it feels like it's truly starting to tear at like the foundational like cores of what college sports about. Look, like the idea that like, excuse me, ooh, gross, sorry. The idea that like you can't even be tied to a school anymore because maybe you played at 5 different schools during your time in college is not the end of the world. But it also, I don't think, is a good sign for like the development of the actual athlete. I think that there's like a point to be made as to where you get diminishing returns, right? Like how many coaching staff, like every time you get in a new car, yeah, you're just driving a car, but it has a different feel. The power steering's different. The brake might be a little more or less sensitive. Like the way the car talks to you is going to be different, and the way you respond to it is going to be different. And I feel like moving from offensive scheme to or whatever, defensive, whatever you want to call it, is not good for the player. And so I do feel like while Michael is correct, while my gut is correct, and that this will never end, and we'll probably just have a professional and then semi-pro, you're going to class kind of level thing. It really frustrates me for fan bases like TCU, who are so excited for Josh Hoover next season, just to go through the scare of their guy who's not actually in the portal being potentially plucked by Tennessee. Lucky for TCU and TCU fans, all the horned frogs out there, he did not leave, and he is in the 6th spot on my list. 2 years ago, he replaced Chandler Morris. And I thought this was interesting. According to TCU associate AD Mark Cohen, Hoover was only one of 4 quarterbacks in the nation to average 300 yards per game last year and have a passer rating of at least 150. So clearly, the potential for Hoover to have a true breakout year next year is there. And I think it could happen. I obviously, I have him at 6 on my list, so I'm not really truly banking on it too hard. But I really do think that is where Josh Hoover falls at number 6 on my list. And number 5, we're in the top 5 now, folks. Here we go. Who we got at number 5? Drum roll, please. Rocco Becht, Iowa State quarterback. Another guy who, honestly, there are a lot of quarterbacks in this conference whom have very high potentials and very low floors and are somewhat in a gray area with their current projections, I think. And I think that's why when you do look at all the different top 10s of Big 12 quarterbacks right now across the nation, you get a lot of different answers. You get a lot of different mixes. I think the only, and we'll get to this in a little bit, the only guys that are kind of locked into that top 3 are a couple of guys. And the rest of them are pretty interchangeable based on the way you see their talent and the way you see their potential, the team around them, etc. I was talking to Eric Ruby about it, and this morning, and we were going through our personal lists, and we have like 10 different ways we could have ranked it. Even I, who made my own list, still think I could end up being convinced or swayed one way or the other on some of these. I just think that a lot of these quarterbacks are pretty close in their talent, but also their potential. Rocco Becht is another one of those guys that could be, as high as, I've seen him as high as 3. I've seen him as low as 8 or 9. You know what I mean? So like it's really at the end of the day, how do you feel about the potential of this player? I think Rocco Becht's slightly more proven than Josh Hoover. And I think that Rocco Becht is going to have another solid year next year and continue to improve. You, return a couple of very high level receivers as well over there. And yeah, it's a question. There are some question marks as to some of the other pieces there, but I feel like Rocco Becht in that 5 spot is where I want him to be. And then in the number 4 slot, Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson, one of, I feel like, maybe the king in this conference right now of that quarterback category that I was just describing. The quarterback that, you've seen flashes and you can buy in one way or the other as to if you think that Avery Johnson is the dual threat QB that the Big 12 doesn't want to see, right? Like, or do you think Avery Johnson is mostly potential and not a lot of actual production? I think Avery Johnson is going to have an improved year this year. I think last year, a lot of people identified it as his breakout season, but I also think that last year wasn't his breakout season. I think that will be this year, right? I think that last year, your first full season as a starter, it was okay. It was fine. It was good. Whatever you want to call it, whatever. I really think Avery Johnson with his dual threat ability will be able to find more of a stride this season, even without a guy like Trey Spivey, who, thank you K-State for that guy. Shout out to Junior Spivey as well, his father. But yeah, no, I think Avery Johnson is an incredibly talented quarterback. I think that when you look at, the names behind him on this list, I think he's more versatile than a Rocco Becht. I think he is also more versatile than a Josh Hoover. I think Josh Hoover might be a better thrower of the ball than Avery Johnson, but I think the dual threat ability combined with how K-State utilizes Avery Johnson puts him above him on my list. And then same thing going down the rest of the way, right? Devon Dampier has a dual threat as well, but hasn't played in this conference yet. Also is not really as efficient, I believe, as Avery Johnson. So Avery Johnson is in the 4 slot there. Moving in, folks, to our top 3 picks. We do have a comment here that I want to get to from our guy, Michael. Once again, we lead the league in Michael's chat. Hoover was arguably one of the best QBs in the Big 12. I think he's a solid top 3 in the Big 12. And again, like, honestly, Michael, like, I'm not really going to argue too hard on that. Like, and that's kind of what I was saying about this list. Like, I'm gonna throw it up here again. I think that Hoover, Becht, and Johnson, I think those are the main 3 that I think you could go back and forth. I could go back and forth with you, and I think I could be swayed, right? Because I really love Hoover. I really do. Oh, Carson Miller, I must have misspoke. Did I say that they were returning those receivers? I meant to say that you're losing those 2 receivers. Carson says, what top receivers are returning to Iowa State? They just lost their 2 1,000-yard receivers. Did you do your research? I did, but I did misspeak. So, yeah, that's kind of the question marks that I was referring to after I must have misspoken. But yeah, I did do my research, and I did see that they were losing the top 2 receivers. But yeah, I think even through the question marks, he will be fine, Rocco Becht. And that's why he's there on my list at 5. But like I was telling Michael, I really could be swayed with those 3 in particular either way. And I think I could shift them around in which way I needed to. Because this is May, folks. This is May. We got a lot of conjecture, projection, and predictions to go. And yeah, moving into the top 3. Who is going to be 3rd in my top 10, chat? Who is going to be 3rd? Noah Fifita. All right, chat. Noah Fifita. Am I a homer? Am I biased? I don't know. You tell me. I think Noah Fifita, again, if we're talking as something falls in the office, I think we have some sort of, I don't know. The salespeople are crazy. Noah Fifita at the 3 spot. I think I have Noah Fifita at the 3 spot because of, again, we've seen Noah Fifita be one of the best QBs in this conference, lead Arizona to an Alamo Bowl, have some incredible moments in that Alamo Bowl game. The throw where he drops back gets absolutely leveled, says F it, T-Mac down there somewhere, and makes connection with Tedero McMillan. Noah Fifita's potential is off the charts unbelievable, right? I know, again, this is his offensive coordinator, but Seth Doege is a guy that was recruiting Noah Fifita when he was at USC. Seth Doege is a guy that's been following Noah Fifita's career for way longer, way before Doege coming to Arizona was even a thought, a premise in the mind of Seth Doege. He joined our show and said, look, if Noah Fifita was 6'3", he'd be a top 3 prospect in the country at quarterback. In the country. not in the conference, in the country. So I feel like Noah Fifita last year, and this is kind of the heart of what this stream, this show was all about today, chat, is how much did last season hurt Noah Fifita's general the general opinion on Noah Fifita? I really feel as though last season you had him you had him in an offense that was old, it was outdated, it was ineffective, it was slow developing everything, and there was no one that really succeeded in last year's offense. Noah Fifita was one of them, right? And he's the first to admit that. He's the first to say that last year was unacceptable. I got to be better. Like we all got to be better. And I think Noah Fifita, when you look at his skill set, his profile, what he did in 23, this is a guy that in an offense like what Seth Doege wants to run, up tempo, quick snaps, fast pace, looking to score. I think Noah Fifita is going to fit right in, folks. I really do. I think Noah Fifita is going to have this offense built around him and his strengths, not how can you work within this offense? How can we work our offense for you, Noah Fifita? And I think that's going to be the biggest difference. I miss Shane, guys. I think that's going to be the biggest difference next season for Noah Fifita, is the offense being molded and built and crafted around his skill set and not whatever Dino Babers was running at Syracuse. You know what I mean? So I believe in Seth Doege. I believe in Noah Fifita. I think the receiving room is incredibly deep compared to last year. I think that while you lose Tyrone McMillan, top 10 NFL draft pick, greatest receiver in the school's history, maybe even, I think, the highest rated prospect in the school history as well by a fair margin, I still think the passing game is going to look better next year because the offense, again, I repeat, the offense last year was so ineffective, so bad, so outdated that even a top 10 pick in Tyrone McMillan couldn't shine up that turd. You know what I mean? So I think this year Noah Fifita has y'all must have forgot kind of season. And I think he reminds the Big 12 that he is one of the top talents in the conference. Whether he is the number 1 or number 4 or 5, I have him at my 3 on my list of top 10 quarterbacks entering play next season. Noah Fifita comes in at number 3. Michael in the chat says, I'm still drinking that 23 Kool-Aid. You could have put Sanders or Levitt on Arizona 2 last year and they would have sucked too. He was successful in rhythm. Our on-time throws with Jedd. Doege will help our guy, to be honest. And I do want to address specifically one thing you said here real quick. You could have put Shedeur or Levitt or Jalen Milroe on the 2024 Arizona Wildcats and they would have looked like garbage. Like they wouldn't have looked any good. I think that the offense, it's all, I'm not accusing anybody of nothing, but it's like, it's an offense that almost was specifically set to not work. You're like, oh, we got speed a little bit. We got size a little bit. We got a very versatile quarterback. Let's just do slow developing screens all game. And, when we need a yard, let's do a screen throw behind the line of scrimmage. Like nobody was set up for success last season with Arizona. And for that reason, I think Noah Fifita is going to have a bounce back year under Seth Doege and cement himself as a top 3 quarterback in this conference, ladies and gentlemen. That moves me into our top 2. And I will give you the names of the top 2 before I reveal them. It is Sawyer Robertson of Baylor, and Sam Levitt of ASU. And chat, let's have a quick discussion. Save space before we get to the end of this list. I don't enjoy saying nice things about Arizona State University. I don't enjoy talking about their programs. I don't enjoy their basketball coach. Their football coach is honestly awesome. Hate to say it, but Kenny Dillingham is building himself a crazy squad. And he continues to bring in talented players who seem to buy into what he is selling. Sam Levitt being one of them. You want to talk about guys that could have left this past summer for a bigger paycheck, maybe, but definitely for a bigger market. Sam Levitt is one of those guys. You talk about guys that across the country, people look in this Big 12 conference and say, that's a Heisman candidate quarterback. That's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Sam Levitt's that guy. You flip the coin. Sawyer Robertson is a quarterback for Baylor that you know how like I was describing Avery Johnson last season as everyone's saying this is going to be his breakout year. This is the one. He's going to be incredible. And then he wasn't as good. He was a little bit underwhelming. I think Sam Robertson might deliver. Everyone's saying, Sawyer Robertson might deliver. Widely regarded as one of the hottest QB prospects in 2025, at least in the conference. He's getting Heisman love, starting to get a little bit of draft love. And when I say Heisman love and draft love, I mean he's starting to get mentions in those articles of like preseason Heisman picks, preseason NFL draft stuff. So working under, Robertson working under Jake Spividal, the new OC at Baylor, for a second year is going to be huge. Spividal has a record of improving quarterbacks in his second year. Sawyer Robertson's going to be working with a guy that worked with Johnny Manziel for multiple years. Ever heard of that guy? Ever heard of Johnny Manziel? Yeah, I know you have. Geno Smith, he had that Tavon Austin team in West Virginia. Spividal was there. And Kyler Murray. And when you look at, and shout out to Locked On Baylor, they did a great breakdown of why and how he has improved quarterbacks year over year from year one, where they might have, some success, to year two, where they're one of the best quarterbacks in their conference. I think Robertson is going to experience a similar jump in year two under Spividal. He became the full-time OC in 2013 at Texas A&M, the year after Johnny Manziel won his Heisman, and Manziel got better after that. Josh Cameron looks to be his number one receiver from everything I'm hearing from Baylor fans. And that 3,000-yard, 28 TD, 8 interception season last year that he had, I think can only be better next year, which is crazy to say because he had a great year last year. He was the 7th best QBR in the nation with 82.9. And they return all of their running backs and their top 3 pass catchers from last season. That one I'm pretty sure on, chat. But yeah, I really do think Sawyer Robertson is going to be a great quarterback next season for Baylor. And that is why he's in the top 2 on my list. And let's go ahead and reveal it. Chat, I hate to say, had to put Sam Leavitt at number 1. God. And Kellen, you're so right. Like, you're so right. Damon would have ranked Leavitt lower out of spite. I was talking to Eric Ruby about this morning, about how much it hurts me to put Sam Leavitt number 1 on any graphic in any context. I absolutely hate it. It hurts my soul. I feel like I'm losing pride by the second, chat. But I want to be factual here. I want to try to be a little objective. And I feel like there's no way. There's just no way that you can say that any of these quarterbacks below number 1 is better than who I have at number 1. Hey, look, chat, look. There is nothing there is nothing that I would love more than for this list to come out and then next season to happen and my list looks stupid because Sam Leavitt had a bad year. Oh my God, I would love that. Are you serious? I would love that. I would love to look like the biggest idiot in all of planet Earth for having Sam Leavitt at number 1, along with all the other analysts. But I don't hope that he has the most outstanding year. But you can't say that based off of last season, the returning players they do have, such as a Jordan Tyson, that you can't put him you can't put him any lower than number 1. And look, I was talking to Eric Ruby about it this morning, and he even conceded that if I had him in the top 3 at least, it would be valid. But that's my list, chat. I could have put him lower, but I would have been lying to you guys. And I don't want to lie to you guys. You're my closest friends and family here in this chat. And I appreciate each and every one of you for sticking in with me today on this solo show where I gave you my top 10 quarterbacks in the Big 12 entering next season. And if you are watching on one of our wonderful, wonderful streaming platform partners, please head over to gophnx.com or our YouTube. The party continues over there. And if you're on our YouTube chat, just stay where you're at. Your money. You're in the sweet spot already. So, like I said, let's throw this list up one more time. Sam Leavitt, Sawyer Robertson, Noah Fifita, Avery Johnson, Rocco Becht, Josh Hoover, who, after doing this show, I really feel like probably should be in that 5 spot, maybe even 4 spot. But regardless, like I said, the 4, 5, 6 was very close for me. Jake Retzlaff at number 7, Devin Dampier at number 8, Connor Wegman, number 9, and Caden Salter at number 10. And I would like to say that if Jalen Daniels is watching, you didn't make the top 10 because you ran Kean Burnett out of town. Brother spent one spring with Jalen Daniels and said, I need Noah Fifita back in my life. So, yeah, chat. I that's my list. Let me know what you think in the chat. Kellen says, I appreciate you for putting your bias aside. I got you, Kellen. I got you. It makes it hard on me to have to say nice things about ASU, but I do it for you guys in the chat sometimes when I have to. Carson says, Levitt was pretty impressive, only throwing 3 turnover-worthy throws all season. Yeah, he was incredibly efficient. And like in the post regular season play, I'll call it, because it wasn't like quite. I don't know what they're calling it these days. They're starting to do a 16 team play. I don't even know what we're calling it. But in the postseason, he was incredibly efficient as well, and he opened a lot of eyes, and you can't deny that. Michael says Baylor is going to be cold this year. My favorite to win the Big 12. Wow, I love that. I love that we're letting takes fly in the chat, folks. Please let all your takes fly in the chat. I love to read them. You get to see them on the screen, and we get to talk about them as a big old happy family. Michael says, I think Damon would have choice words about Sam. Yeah, I think Damon's going to see this graphic on social media on some beach somewhere having a nice alcoholic frozen beverage and probably drop or spit out that beverage all over the place after seeing what I'm about to post from the beat account later, folks. And gee whiz, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that is where we're at today. Michael says the last turnover worthy throw against Texas warmed my heart. My guy, yes, it did. Oh, yes, it did. I will say that targeting situation, if I was an ASU fan, I'd be absolutely gutted for the rest of my life. But also as an Arizona fan, that could not have ended any nicer, right? Like they don't get to finish the run. It ends in heartbreak and controversy. And that is what I love most. And you know what else I love most? You guys here in the chat. Before we get out of here, I want to quick mention Arizona softball was selected as the number 13 national seed and will begin its journey to the Women's College World Series by playing in the Tucson Regional. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a regional. Let's go. It's going to be played this Friday, May 16th through Sunday, May 18th. We'll feature Arizona, Ole Miss, GCU, and Santa Clara. They'll all be in Tucson for the regional. It's the 37th all-time selection and is the 27th time Arizona will host a regional little mini tournament there. Arizona will take on Santa Clara at 4:30 Mountain Standard Time on ESPN Plus to open the event. And then 2-seeded Ole Miss and 3-seed Grand Canyon will play at 7 p.m. on ESPNU on Friday night. I want to mention that Arizona is one of the hottest teams in the country right now. I know that they kind of got worked by Texas Tech on a big stage there in the Big 12 championship, but still one of the most dominant offenses in all of college softball. The most, ranked 8th in batting average, 10th in hits, and 19th in home runs. Excuse me, chat. And in the Big 12, they're 1st in batting average, 1st in hits, 1st in on-base percentage, 1st in RBI, and 1st in runs scored. And yeah, I just wanted to mention Arizona softball. Keep killing it. Keep doing your thing. Reagan Shockey, and the Reagan Shockey leads the conference, and Kaya Altmaier leads the conference in doubles. Sorry, Reagan Shockey in hits, Kaya Altmaier in doubles. Lost track of my figures there. And then the Arizona also has one of the best defenses in the nation. But yeah, leads the Big 12, ranked 18th in the NCAA with a 97.4 overall fielding percentage. So you hope Arizona took what they could get out of the Big 12 tournament and can hopefully turn that around into some postseason success. And yeah, I wanted to mention again, one more diamond sport. You know how we love our diamond sports here in the Wildcat community. Arizona baseball won on senior day versus Utah to, keep them in that hunt for a top 4 seed and hopefully a first round bye in 2 weeks in the Big 12 championship. And then I wanted to mention, shout out to Mason White. I've been wearing the shirt all month, waiting for the brother to finally go into sole possession of 3rd all-time home runs, and he did that. And then he hit another home run to go to 41 all-time. Our guy, Javier Morales, shout out to you at All Sports, tweeted 41 career bombs for Lancer hardball alum Mason White with Arizona. As you can see, he climbs just behind Brad Glenn from the 06 to 09 years with 43, and in between, under him right there is Chase Davis, as you all remember, very recent memory, with 39 bombs. Shout out to Shelly Duncan. That is going to be a tough one to break, with 55 bombs from 99 to the year of my birth, 2001. Before we get out of here, I want to give a shout out to everybody here in the chat with me today. You guys have been awesome. I appreciate each and every one of you for popping in with some takes on my top 10. And I'm sure once I post it, there's going to be more takes on my top 10. So stay tuned for that. You can catch it on my Twitter at Kevo Posts. That is KEVOPOSTS. You can catch everything we do Arizona Wildcats related at PHNX_Wildcats. And you know, Damon comes back next week. We have Spears coming on Thursday, trying to work up, you know, some maybe a guest appearance from Saul Bookman. Anybody who knows? But yeah, interviews hopefully this week. Spears on Thursday. Excited for the week ahead. And I'm excited to watch Arizona softball this weekend as well. You all in the chat, don't forget to drink your water. Make sure to always bear down and go Cats. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a like. Hit me up on Twitter. Tell me all your stupid little cereal takes. And I will see you all tomorrow for another edition of the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Thomas. And until next time, folks, bear down and go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.